Hello and welcome. I'm Kathy Lee from Kathy's Creative Place, and I am here today to share my project that I made for the Country Craft Creations New Year's Eve crop. This is a card folio, or what I'm calling a purse card folio, and it's expandable, and it really is meant to store cards that either you plan to send out to friends and family, or to store cards that you receive from friends and family, or little, mementos, keepsakes, those kinds of things. So it really is kind of like would be something I would call kind of a year in review. So if I receive a thank you card from my neighbor or something for something I did for them, I always enjoy saving those little mementos or cards that I receive. So this is probably what I'm going to use this for. But you don't have to use it just for that. You can actually make cards and store them in here that you plan to give out throughout the year. So what I did is, it's really simple to make, and the tutorial will follow this preview, but I did want to share a couple of cards that I did make. And the expandable construction or design of the purse allows you to put a lot of pieces in here, and it really will allow you to expand a lot. The only problem is that the closure is very strong. It has two large magnets in here, but it still will only store so much. So you can't always lift it by the handle, but for the purposes of a couple of cards in each one of these sections, it's easily strong enough to hold the purse closed. So I did want to share a couple extra cards that I was working on for Christmas, probably for next year. Some of these are using some of my previous scraps. Some have just note cards, so that it doesn't really have like a sentiment yet. But so there's just a couple of Christmas cards. And the other thing I thought this would be really cute for is there's 7 pockets. So if I have the 7th pocket has all of my envelopes in it, and then I can have like the 12 days of Christmas. So I have 2 cards for each one of the slots, and I thought that would be really kind of a cute little thing where I give a card to a friend or family member the first 12 days of Christmas. So anyway, but I did want to share a couple other cards that I'd made. Here's just a simple thank you card. This is Wilbur's Christmas card that I received. He is so photogenic, isn't he? He just sits so well. Tammy, I don't know how you do this, but I just love him. He's adorable. And I did have a couple other cards I received from some friends. This one's from Mary Beth, and this is from Bobby. Some DT teammates. That one's from Michelle. And then I just made some extra thank you and sympathy cards for those that I'll probably just be able to pull out and put in the mail. And I just used a whole bunch of different papers from the collections that I've used this year. Another Christmas card. I was able to do some fun inking backgrounds and a little splatter of paint for some snow, if you can see that. I love that. And then a shaker card. These are such fun dies. I love these memory box dies here. So that is my project, and we're going to get started. It's so simple, you will not believe it. Let's get started. Okay, so for the tutorial piece, I kind of cheated a little bit, so I'm gonna let you know that I already covered my lightweight chipboard. So you're going to need 2 pieces of lightweight chipboard, both at 5.5 by 6.5. and just cover them so that your cardstock is 8.5 by 7.5, and then you have an inch around. Most of you, I'm sure you have covered chipboard, and if you haven't, check the Scrapbookers of Country Craft Creations for some tutorials that Tammy has. She does this all the time. So so I covered my chipboard pieces, and then I also made my accordion pocket. So what I did is I'm going to show you how to make the pockets, and how I attached them. Okay, so for your accordion pockets, you'll need a piece of 7.5 by 7 inches of your cardstock, and we are going to score at the 7-inch side. We're going to score at 3.5. And these instructions are in the description as well, so I'm just going through this with you. And then on the 7.5-inch side, we're going to score at 1/2 inch and 7 inches. Okay, so that's all the scoring we're going to do. Now I'm just going to move my scoreboard out of the way. Now we're going to cut out part of this edge here so that we can create our pocket. And what we're going to do is I'm going to miter the corner, and it's I like this brown. It's actually a craft cardstock that Michael's carries, and I really like this because I use it a lot for like prototypes when I'm trying to create designs and stuff. So I use it for that, but it shows up on camera really well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to miter right there at the middle of that 3.5-inch score, and then I'm going to cut this whole piece out so you have a piece like that. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So it's basically your standard type of pocket. And I don't have to be perfect for this because, quite frankly, this is just a demonstration. So I'm going to also miter my edges here so you can slip your cards in the folio very easily. That's not going to catch. Okay. I'm going to burnish my score lines. And then I'm just going to take my art glitter glue, put glue on my hinges of the pocket. And then just press it down. Okay, just like that. Okay, now what I did so there's my simple open pocket. So now what I did to create the accordion piece, I cut a piece of score tape, and I have this 1.5-inch score tape. So I cut about a 3-inch piece. If you don't have score tape, don't worry about it, because I'll show you what you can do with just your art glitter glue. And then I just put it in the middle. So if you want to be precise, I use my centering ruler, and I just put it at the very top edge of that pocket. And that's the only part that gets adhered together with your other pockets. So you'll remove the backing, and I just kind of laid it like this and then squeezed it and then pressed it down. Okay, same thing, but you can also do the same thing by using glue or score tape. And all I did was I cut out this piece of 1.5 inch piece of cardstock by 3 inches and put it right here in the middle. And I just put little guidelines to know where I'm going to put glue, and then I just put glue, and you can use glue that way for your accordion, and then you just squeeze together and you have it. Okay, so that's how I did all of these pieces. There are 7 pockets, so you'll want to cut 7 pieces of 7.5 by 7 inch cardstock. Score all of your corners in the middle, cut your edges, and then put them together for the inside of your folio. Okay, so the other pieces that are in your cutting guide are the purse flap, or the top that goes over your purse. These are 5.5 by 6.5, and I included the SVG file in the description box. It's a link to my Google Drive, so you can have access to it there. Or you can use the PDF file that I saved in the Files tab on the Crop Facebook page. Okay, so for the inside of the chipboard pieces, we're going to cover these with pattern paper. So we're going to cover them with whatever pattern paper you're going to choose. We're not going to, and then we'll do the back of one, and then the other one we're going to need to remember to put our magnets on once we get our flap together. So we're going to do the front of the folio or the purse last. Okay, so we'll go ahead and put the pattern paper on the inside. I left this open for a little while, so now it's drying. And if you're wondering what paper I'm using the Graphic 45 Ladies Diary. I love this paper collection, and I haven't even had a chance to use it, and I thought, oh, this would make a pretty little purse folio. Okay, and we're just going to put it on centered here. The inside of this piece. Okay, so I realized that I should have put my top on the inside, because that's the way that I had done it on my prototype. So and I also took the pattern paper and decided, since I'm going to go ahead and do that, it's going to cover this pattern paper, but because I have this trim that I had planned on using, I'm just going to use this trim in here and cover up that raw edge that I'm going to adhere it to, so it'll look fine. Okay, so the other thing I did is I took my pattern paper and I took about an 1/8 inch off each side with my trimmer, just to give it a little bit more of that white edge on the sides, so it kind of matches the how these are going to come together. I'm not going to worry about the edge here because I'm actually going to put that some pretty trim on it. So so we're going to do that now. The one thing I'm going to do is because I'm going to go ahead and put this on the back, I'm only going to glue on this part of the two pieces. That way I can leave this flap open to put the magnets in. I don't want to do that yet, only because I want to see where they're going to be placed on the front when I get the book together. So we'll do that toward the end before we complete our decorating. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm just going to glue only the large part of this flap. Okay, this is going to be kind of tricky, so I'm going to put it right up against the edge and give it about 1/8 of an inch on each side. There we go. Okay, now that I've got that done, I can put this on the inside of my back cover. It's only going to be about a 1/2 inch, and for that I'm going to go ahead and use score tape, just because I feel like it's going to probably need that extra heavy adherence. Oops, just bumped the camera. Okay, now I'm just going to take my chipboard piece, I'm going to lay it right on that score tape, and I'm going to try and line it up to make sure that it's a little bit larger. There we go. Okay. There we go. So I used this line as a guide to keep me straight, so that it's nice and straight there. And then all I need to do is add my little trim in here. I'm just going to leave these pieces alone. They're not going to make any difference. Okay. I'm just going to use my art glitter glue. There we go. So I fixed my little boo-boo. And I'm going to start training that again now that it's got glue in it as well, because it gets a little bit more stiff once that glue is drying to the cardstock and pattern paper. Okay, now we're going to put our book, our pages for our folio in here. The one thing I will say is that I'm going to, when I adhere this, I'm going to adhere it toward the very bottom on one end, and then again that small 3-inch piece right there in the middle, so it'll give it a little bit of some give on the outer portion as well. That way that pocket's going to open up, whereas if I glue right out of camera, sorry, if I glue the whole thing, this won't bend out as much, but if I just glue it in the middle, it'll allow it to be a little bit more elastic, I guess you could say. Okay, so now I'm going to use some, again, score tape rather than my glue. And for the bottom portion, I'm just going to put some score tape at the bottom. I have trouble tearing it sometimes. Just my hands are just not as strong anymore. A little bit more fragile as you get older. And then my 1.5-inch score tape. I'll move that out of the way. Cut a 3-inch piece. Okay. Oh, there's my mark right now. Right there. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to put this in my book, and I'm just going to basically pull them together. I'm not going to try and lay it on straight. I want to make sure that it's going to be like a purse, and it's just going to sit in here just like that. There we go. Okay, furnish that down good. Get down in the pocket. Okay, and then this one will go on this way, just like that. Okay, so again, I'm just going to use score tape on this, on the bottom. Yikes. And a piece of 3-inch score tape for the top. Just going to eyeball it. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing here. Just going to stand it up. Besides, if I make a mistake or if it comes out of alignment, it's a good thing I would have used score tape, because I can always undo with the undo. That stuff is a miracle saver. Okay, and now we have our folio purse beginning to take shape. Now, for the front here, I'm going to put my magnets on. The interesting thing about this particular project is that it really does not, it really has kind of an odd shape when it's empty. It really takes shape, and it really holds well when it's full. So that's why you've got to keep those cards made, so you can keep your folio made and use those cards and share them with your friends and family. Okay, so this is about where I left this. I'm going to get some large magnets. So I'm going to use 2 large magnets because I really want to make sure that it closes well. You probably don't have to, but I think I'm just because of the way the accordion, so that it'll pull it away from the accordion. It might need that strength to pop it up. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to put my magnets on in 2 places, probably about a couple inches apart. So one right here. Oh my goodness, come on out there, buddy. Well, this one is definitely stuck in there. Okay. Oops. All right. All right. And I'm going to put the other one right about there. Okay. Now, slide that off. We are going to glue this down, and then we'll put them back on top of here, and then adhere them to our book. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some score tape on here. And then I'm going to use glue for the rest. And we're going to press it down real firm. The glue is going to takes a little bit of drying time. Oops, wee. I want to make sure that it. Okay. Now, there's our magnets, and I'm going to set it so that it's right about here. So I'm using this as kind of I guess a guide, about a 1/2 inch from the edge of my round section to the top. And that's how I'm gonna, I think that's how I'm gonna attach them. So little trash bin over here so I can clean up my mess. Okay, so again, right about a ½ an inch. That's too far. That looks good. Perfect. Okay, and we'll let that off. There they are. Now let's put that back on. There we go. Yeah, that's a nice heavy adherence. That turned out really nice. Okay, now we can cover the front and back of our book. All right. Now all we have to do is make a handle and decorate, and then we'll be done. Okay, so we are going to make the handle for our little purse card folio, and I have the handle for the top we're going to add to our purse. So it measures 8.5 by 3.25, 3/4 of an inch. So 8.5 by 3/4 of an inch. And then I cut some pattern paper at 1/4 of an inch by 8 1/4. And that'll give it just 1/8 of an inch around the edge. So I use basically the same pattern paper that I used here. Okay, I'm going to glue this to my cardstock for 1/8 of an inch border. Okay. Now, I'm also going to take my, oh my gosh, I think it just sticks to my finger. I'm going to take my score pal, and I'm going to score this Now that it's glued to my cardstock, I'm going to score it at 3/4 of an inch on both, on both sides. And that's going to allow us to kind of bend it. And then we're going to curl it so that we can make it a handle for a purse folio. Okay, so I'm just gonna take it on my fingers just like this and just keep doing this, and eventually it'll just kind of nicely curve into a cute little handle. For this example, I'm only going to use this with some art glitter glue. I'm just going to glue it. I'm not going to use any score tape or anything. Believe it or not, on my prototype, when I had it full of cards, I had 12 cards in here and 12 envelopes, and it expanded like this, and I art glitter glued it to the top. I was able to pick it up without a problem. There was no stretching. It was strong. So that's probably what I'm going to do with this one as well. So, well, let's see. I think I'm just going to leave it adhered so I know where to put it. So I'm going to take my art glitter glue. I'm going to give it a nice heavy amount of glue. So I don't want this coming off. And then I'm just going to grab it at the very ends. And as you can see where I'm lifting it up, that's about where I'm going to put my handles, because that's going to be the center of oh my gosh, my husband is a rocket scientist and I can't even remember what this is. The center of okay, whatever. So so I'm going to put my center of gravity. Oh, hello. So physicists know this. Here's my center of gravity right there. And I'm going to put my handle right around the center of gravity. You can kind of move it around as long as it's still wet. And there it is. There's the center of gravity. Now, of course, the gravity will change once you start putting cards and envelopes in it. But for the most part, once this adheres and it stays nice and tight, you can lift this up and it will pull the whole purse up as if it were a purse. Cute, right? Adorable. So I'm going to let that dry because I do not want anything to I don't want it to move, so I'm going to let it dry completely. And then I'm going to put, so to do a little bit of decorating, I'm going to put this pearl trim on. I got this from Joann's store, and this is an ivory trim by Simplicity is what if I recall. I'm going to put it on the package. So yes, it's from Simplicity. So you can find this in Joann's or probably just about any fabric store because they carry it for wedding dresses and formals and that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to put my trim around the edge. And then I found this in my stash. This is going to go kind of like a button, and this is going to go right in the middle, and that's going to be my button focal point for my clasp. So once I get that done, I'm going to use some hot glue for this. I'm going to do it off camera because you've seen me do this before, and then I will be back with the final pearls on the top here as kind of just a little bit of decoration. And I'm going to show you some cards that I've made for the inside of my folio, and I hope that you enjoy this, and I hope you're able to make this for our New Year's Eve crop. Okay, so I've finished the trim around the edge here. I also put some at the edge of the bottom, and then I added some at the top and the bottom edge in the back as well. And then here are these cute little pearls with a little bit of rhinestones around them, just kind of give it a little bit glitz and glam like my button. And that is our Card Folio purse. And I hope you have a chance to make this. It's really, really simple. Thank you for joining me in 2019, and I hope to be sharing a lot more in 2020. Have a great New Year's.